Hi everyone, my name is Natalie and I run the All Homesteading YouTube channel. Thought I would jump on today to just give you a quick catch up and update on my knitting, and there are some other non-knitting updates that I would like to share, but I'll put them at the end of the video so that anyone who is interested can stick around for that. So let's begin with my first finished object, and it is what I am wearing. So this is the Love Letter top by Kutovakika. I'm renaming it the Labour of Love Letter top because anybody who has seen more than one episode on my channel know that lace knitting is not my strong point, and I made a New Year's resolution at the start of the year to try to make it an objective to improve my lace knitting. So opting for an all over lace pattern in black yarn is definitely a way to do that. So I have a full object. There are some mistakes here and there, but I mean, I don't think I have any other garment that do not have any mistakes. It's just the nature of what we do. So yeah, I'm very happy with it. I do have a few gripes, not necessarily with the pattern. Well, yeah, they are to do with the pattern, but just some minor things that I found would be easier if they were included. The first thing would be logistically, if there was a way to group the chart with the written instructions. So the lace work is essentially knit in several different charts. But as well as the charts, there are some written instructions, especially when you are doing the yoke portion around here, and then you do the sleeves, and then you do your armhole shaping. So at some points you are following a chart for your size, but then there are also specific instructions to shape the armholes. So the problem with that though is I actually, rather than print out anything, I was knitting a lot of this top sat in front of a screen. So it would have been great to have these instructions, or at least like nearby on the page, because oftentimes you would have the written instructions that you need to follow for a particular portion on page 3, and you're following a chart on page 16. So it is a bit of a faff to follow along with that, especially if you're not so confident knitting lace. So that is one issue that I had. Secondly, I think it would have been great to include photographs for that particular portion that you're about to embark on. What I mean by that is, for me, when I was knitting a chart, obviously you just have the symbols on that, you know, whatever you need to do, SSK or knit two together or whatever you need to do, you have that on your chart. So it would have been great, as well as the chart, you were given a small photograph so you knew exactly on the, you know, where you're at on the garment, if that makes sense, because there is only really a couple of photographs that are included with the pattern, and that is just to see the full finished sample. So often I was knitting along following the chart, but I had no conception on of what exactly I was, you know, whereabouts I was knitting. So it would make sense if you could sort of compare, you know, what you're knitting to the photograph, so you know if you're on the right track. I think that would just be, I think, a great improvement to those who are relatively new to lacework knitting. But otherwise, it is an absolutely beautiful pattern. The instructions are very clear. easy to follow, and yeah, I really like the top. I was questioning quite a few times whether choosing black yarn for this particular pattern was the right thing to do. However, I do wear a lot of black. I can mix it and match it, and I have several outfits that I can wear it with. So for example, here today I'm just wearing a pencil skirt, a midi pencil skirt with the top. Okay, so while I stood up, I can actually show you. I did run out of a little bit of steam here, so I really wanted to just to work in stockinette. So it happened to be at the point where where I have my natural waist. So as you can see, it cinches in a little bit. So that worked out pretty well. And then I actually wanted to go back to a little bit of lace work, but I didn't actually want to follow like another pattern. So what I did was I just started to do a bit of an eyelet ribbing, which is a 4-row repeat. Thought I'd also include the photograph of the sample included in the pattern, and as you can see, I also omitted the bobbles because I don't like the placement, because they look a little bit too much like nipples, so I didn't include that in my own version. So that is the Love Lace top. I knitted it using yarn that I featured in my previous episode, which is the Kasabian by Burnt Fens alpacas. The yarn is from an actual alpaca that I've met, and so I had a couple of skeins of that yarn. So I had 200 grams of the alpaca. It's an absolute beauty to work with. It's got that sort of oily texture that I love. The first skein that I used was quite slubby, so you had some thin spun yarn, and then it would go at some areas thick, which I don't mind, because it really adds a nice texture to an already textured top, so it feels really nice. However, because I only had 200 grams and I do like to have my tops a bit longer, I didn't actually do it as long as I normally have it, so it sort of stopped just at my belly button. But I actually had to supplement the alpaca yarn. I actually used DK weight yarn, and the wool, so it's from the Woolly Knit Cone, is fingering weight yarn, so I just held that double to make a DK, and luckily it was at a place where it was fine, because I just used it for the ribbing, for the eyelet ribbing, and for the I-cord at the edges. So you also need to use an I-cord for the trim. Okay, so the second finished object is the Lakewood Cowl by Carissa Browning. It's a continuous piece. Obviously it's knit in the round, and so I used what was left of some Garthenor Priselli organic yarn with some mystery alpaca. So this is what I have from a trip to Sweden, left from a trip to Sweden. So it doesn't have a label, so I bought it from a Lucky Dip bag. So I thought it would be cool to have it use it as part of a trim for the cowl. There's not much to say about it really. I really did want another cowl. I want to knit lots of bandanas, because I use them often, especially during transitional periods. So this makes, a great, you can pop this on when it's a bit chilly and have your neck sort of covered, and then this can be tucked into your clothes or your jacket. So I've been using it quite a bit. And yeah, so this is the knit version. There is also a crochet option. Yeah, it's a pretty straightforward pattern, not much to say about it, but yeah, I will knit another, especially probably coming up to Christmas time. I think as it's a quick knit, I think it would make quite a nice present Christmas gift. So yeah, so that's my second finished object, and is something that I will just need to weave that in. Will knit again. Okay, third and final finished object is a simple scrunchie by, well, on Instagram I saw a free pattern. Well, it's just a reel with how she knits scrunchies by Emma Knits on Instagram. So yeah, so those of you who fancy knitting a scrunchie, so this is knit from 3 strands of mohair. So I used some leftovers from Elizabeth Powell yarn, which is in the colorway Hologram. So yeah, so those are my 3 finished objects, and so let's get down into whips. So this is my first whip. It is the Hala blouse, crossbody blouse by Svata Faret. It's a free pattern, and I have to say, yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed in this top. For one, it has taken me ages just because of the all over mosaic pattern. Now, one thing that I will say about the pattern is that it gives you a very, very simple chart for the all over pattern, so that's fine. But one thing that I would say is not that great about the pattern is the instructions for the raglan increases. So there isn't really enough information about like what side is longer. It just basically gives you all of the instructions in one go, and it says increase X, do your raglan increases, but then at the same time increase for, but it doesn't actually give you the information about like what side is longer, what side crosses over the body, etc. So what I mean by that is I have knitted a cross-body blouse or cardigan in the past, and this was also a free pattern by Two of Wands. It's called the ballerina wrap top, and with that pattern it was very clear. You knew exactly what side needed to be longer, and you then finish off the sides with an I-cord, and that was actually pulled through a hole that you would make in the side seam. Very simple, very straightforward. With this, however, I was very confused with what side needed to go over, because obviously I can look at the image and the image shows me that the right side, the image is like this, right? There is one image of the sample which is like this with it done up, right? The rest it's on a model. That's fine, but when it's written in the pattern, it says the right side, but unlike the love letter top by Kuto Fakika, she actually says the right side when you're looking at the garment. But if it just says the right side, is it the right side like this, or is it the right side like that? I mean, it's very confusing, all that to say. And also it's very confusing with regards to the finishing instructions. The instructions for the I-cord or the, you know, where to start the I-cord. So yeah, so all that to say, I don't think that it has come out as well as I would have hoped. So what I plan to do is, because initially I knit this in order to be a top, like a summer top, and have short sleeves. But what I actually feel I will do now, and I will get more use out of, is if I do long sleeves and use it as a cardigan. So that's what I'm about to do, because I have enough yarn. I have one full skein of each of the colours. So that means I've got an Arwetta Filcolana. So this is 80% superwash merino wool and 20% nylon. And I also have one skein of the yak blend with silk and baby alpaca. So that's what I'm using for the top. So I will use this to do both sleeves, and that should see me in good stead. So rather than using it as a top, probably just with a camisole or a bra underneath, I will use it as a cardigan. So I think I will get way more use out of it like that. So that is whip number 1. Okay, so whip number 2 is this. So it looks an absolute horror show right now, but it is the Stargazer by James N. Watts. Now, I have messed this top up a little bit because there's something about James's patterns that I enjoy, but this is my fault, right? And I'm not saying that this is the right thing to do at all, but for me, when I look at his patterns, they seem simple, they seem easy. So, and that's an error on my part, a very big error, because they're not so easy. So what I end up doing is following the instructions, and then I get a little bit overconfident and think I don't need to follow the instructions anymore, and just go off and do my own thing. And then I run into issues. Well, I haven't run into issues here, but so the pattern is essentially knit in a contiguous pattern, right? Just using panels that you pick up and knit, and then you knit one panel, and then you pick up and knit, and then you knit one panel, and so you essentially start in the middle. And so what I think I might do is, rather than continue, I don't even want to hold it up because it's looking a bit ugly, but my idea is to finish the front like this in patches, and then in the back just use one colour. So I'm thinking of just knitting flat for the back, using this colour and the back as a t-shirt. So I will do the waistband in this, and then just knit up, and then maybe do sort of cap sleeves in another sort of orangey colour. So yeah, so that is my plan for this. I do feel like I owe it to myself and the designer to actually follow the instructions fully and see where I get to, because the pattern, there is a pattern, there is a sample of the pattern modelled by, I think, Park Williams, and I absolutely loved that. So I thought, okay, I do have sort of similar shades as the sample pattern, so I want to knit that. Yeah, so I should have just followed really the instructions as is, but I feel like with my plan as well, I feel like I can end up with something cool as well. So I will continue with, you know, having sort of the patchwork front and then the back as a block, and then maybe with different capped sleeves. So this is a bit of an experiment, and yeah, so it's our prerogative to do so should we choose. So that's another whip. So I still have two other whips. I have the Anchors sweater for my husband, which I'm still knitting on. So I'm almost finished with the body, and then I just have to embark on the sleeve. So that will be ready come September or whenever the weather starts to cool down. So that's fine. And then I also have the modern mud cloth that I haven't actually knit on anything this month. Maybe it's just one row or one round or something like that for the month. So I shan't be showing you either of those. So let's get into acquisitions. Okay, so I was browsing Facebook Marketplace the other day, and well, it wasn't the other day at all, but this month, let's say, and I came across an advert for Stash yarn, and so I thought, okay, this looks interesting. It's very local. So I took my bike during my lunch break, and I went down, and I ended up purchasing two huge bags. So one, I had like my backpack filled with yarn, and I also had a big shopping bag on my handlebars filled with yarn. So I was very happy that day, and I thought, wow, I have scored myself great purchase. So I will show you what I picked up. So these are the yarns that I picked up. So they are all quite, the ones that I chose, because the lady that I bought the yarn from, she said that she attends lots of auctions, and she bought a load of yarn through auctions, and she just had boxes and boxes and boxes of yarn. So I just literally just picked what I wanted. But then, so I have no idea, I have no idea what fibre content it is. Yeah, it could be anything. I mean, yeah, it's a fluffy yarn, so it could be alpaca. It could, I don't think it is. I don't think any alpaca is here, but yeah, it's cool. But then when I got it back, I don't know, buyer's remorse or something, but didn't actually feel like keeping it at all. So I did my usual thing of freezing them. I put them in my deep freezer in plastic bags, and I seal those bags, and I leave them for a week or two, and then I put it in storage. But then I just thought, okay, I've got several random colours of fluffy yarn. What am I going to do with it realistically? So I did have a lot more. I have actually been putting some of the yarns, especially colours that I don't actually gravitate towards, like blues, light blue, etc. So what I have actually been doing is separating them and putting them into, like, you know, those little mesh bags that you get from, say, like Wool Warehouse. So I have a ton of those. So I have been putting like 10 balls into those and selling them online, and basically getting my money back. So I have just been doing that because I don't really want to keep it. And then I just thought, you know, sometimes when you see something and you're like, oh, that would be great to buy, and it's only cheap, and then when you actually get it, you're like, yeah. So yeah, I'm not actually keeping any of this. I might keep a couple, but I think they will essentially be sold, and they are going. So I actually do prefer to just curate them rather than selling them off as a job lot. I would just curate them into bags and sell them like that. So that was an acquisition, but then not, because I'm getting rid of it. So that's what I've acquired this month. So let's get into a little bit of what I have been up to this month. So I have been doing other things apart from knitting that I would like to share, because they still involve a little bit of creativity and making. And so the first thing is a new table for my tortoise. So I decided to update my tortoise second home, because he goes outside during the day when the weather permits, and he is inside during the day and at night when the weather does not permit. So as you can see, he's just in the table over there, and I decided to update his table for a bigger one, which was made by my neighbour. So I was tasked with creating the inside, the space, and protecting the wood, etc. So there's a lot of painting and sawing and all of that stuff. And yeah, I'm very happy with the finished result, and I think Lenny is very happy with it too. So that's the first thing that I've been up to. Editing me here. While picking up files for this month's video, I was reminded to share that we celebrated our dog Major's 5th birthday in June, and for it we took him and his 2 best mates swimming. We had a little pool party at our local doggy swimming centre, and then they came over to our house where Major and his friends ran about in the garden. I created party bags for each dog, which contained a dog treat, a bandana, and of course a ball to take home. So also my husband and I attended a wine festival locally. So that was held in the local city. So we made a day of it and had lots of samples of beautiful locally produced wine, because I am quite partial to a woody Malbec. But yeah, the only downer of that day was that the weather was awful. We actually at one point got soaked, and yeah, it was a very wet day, even though we had umbrellas and we tried to take cover under the marquee and things. That was a downer. But on our way home, my husband said, shall we go to the music shop? So my husband plays guitar, and he's very fond of the local music store, and he goes in there just to chat to the staff and play the guitars and everything. So I thought, okay, yes, we can go on our way to the train station. And so we went there, and actually, no, in the morning, my husband said, oh yeah, I'm thinking of getting a bass. Would you like to learn to play bass? So I thought, okay, I play drums, but I've always been interested in bass. I love the rhythm section of bands. So I thought, why not? This is a great opportunity. And so we went after the festival to the music shop just to see if there were any affordable bass, and sitting there almost waiting for us was a second hand, I don't even know what it is, it just says Johnson. Is the brand or whatever was not important, but it's second hand. So we got a discounted bass that is fully functional, and so both of us have just been taking it upon ourselves to learn our favourite bass lines, our favourite songs. So that has been very fun. So I have been doing that for the last 2 weeks or so. But already I have picked up songs by Talking Heads, Rage Against the Machine, and the Pixies. So we have been really enjoying jamming with each other and just picking up and just, playing songs that I have been listening to for like the past 25 years. So that was a very cool thing that happened this month. So hopefully I can play enough to show you one of these days, so stay tuned for that. But I promise this will not become a music channel. so yeah, but I actually think that is all I have time for today. So I hope to see you in another video soon. Take care. Bye.